Welcome back, guys. In this course, we will cover why you should avoid using unsigned big integers as primary IDs in your database tables. Then I'll show you how to use UUIDs instead using Laravel. I'm trying a new style for making these tutorials, so I'll be moving a bit quicker than I usually do. While using unsigned integers as auto-incremented primary IDs for your database may work perfectly for you for many cases, it also has its disadvantages. The biggest ones I'm going to be talking about are, the first one is database contentation. And this basically refers to the situation in which you have multiple transactions competing to access a shared database resources. In our case, it's the auto-incremented IDs, leading to delays and potential performance issues. In high traffic systems, this contentation can quickly escalate, resulting in long wait queues. This can degrade your overall system performance. The second is the race conditions in performance. So basically, a race condition is the outcome of a process depending on the timing or sequence of events that are not controlled by you. For our context, it's when you have two database operations happening at the same time. And I have an example here. Let's open the database design. So let's take this example. You have two tables, users and user email. Users has a name column, user's email has a user ID. It's referencing this one-by-one relationship. Each user has one email. And right here, that's the email. Let's go back to our documents. Now, let's say you want to build an efficient API endpoint to insert users and users' email from a CSV file in a bulk. We can do this with the least number of queries, 3, if you're using a regular ID. So the first query will be to get the next available ID in your database. So here I'm using a raw query. Show table status like users is going to be the first value, and that's the value auto increment. This will give you your next ID. And then I have two arrays. One for users data that we're going to insert. The other one is for the emails data. We have two tables. So we're going to do two upserts. So two inserts, one here and one here. In order for us to do this, the user's email need to know the user ID. So back here, see how we have user ID? So you can see here, we have user IDs. For each row, we're grabbing this from here. And those are the emails. Of course, I'm just making this as simple as I can to show the point. And the insert statements will go like this. Users insert, user phones insert. You can use upserts if you want to do like create and edits. But we can achieve this only in 3 queries. That's the important part. Now, let's keep in mind a few things. If you start having more tables in here, like more relationships, you're going to have more queries. So you're going to need to have at the minimum 1 query per table plus the next ID query. That's the bare minimum. There's a problem actually with this approach. So what happens if you get a 2, 3, 4 requests at the same time? Here you grabbed the next ID. But let's say this endpoint takes you, let's say probably 2 seconds to insert. And 1 second passed by, you're right here. You have another API endpoint that got triggered and it inserted a row inside users. This ID is no longer valid. So to solve this, you need to lock your table. So here we do lock tables users and we're locking rights. And once you're done, you do the unlock here. Basically, lock before you grab this ID, unlock once you're done with this ID. So that would make it the bare minimum, if you want to do it right, 5 queries. Now let's scroll down and see the UUID approach. So in here, I have done the same thing. Instead of using our IDs, primary integers, we have UUIDs. I'm using here the Laravel helper class, UUID, and this is the namespace. And these are guaranteed to be unique almost always. And here you can see user email is referencing that UUID. And let's scroll down, and here you can see we're doing inserts as we usually do. And this, for this case, 2 queries. So the other one was 5, and this one is now 2. With this approach, we don't have any race conditions that will impact us, and we're able to deliver a much higher performance code. The other reason why using primary IDs as integers bad is security and privacy. And this one is simple. If anyone takes a look at your network tab and sees an endpoint that looks like, let's say, users/6,000, 10,000, whatever the number is, they immediately know what that number is. That's an ID. And you can easily guess how many records there's going to be in that database. You can just increment the value by, let's say, 10,000. Try if that failed, try less numbers, and it's a very predictable system, and that's usually not good. The last reason I'm going to talk about is flexibility and versatility. UUIDs offer flexibility for data migration and integration as they do not rely on a centralized ID generation mechanism. They can be used across different databases, environments, platforms without compatibility issues. And we demonstrated that in this part here, but let's take it a step further. Let's say you have a distributed system. Let's say you want to write like a cloud function, a cloud task, and that task or cloud function is going to be modifying your service database. Let's say that it's going to insert some records. Now that function basically will not be able to do anything without accessing your database. It needs direct access or at least an endpoint to grab that next ID, and then you're going to need to lock that database, and who knows how that's going to look like when other services start doing that to your database service. So using UUIDs make it very overall easier to work with. If you're using a distributed system, you have a lot of traffic, you're aiming to do things in for high performance, like inserts in bulk instead of like doing one insert, grab the ID, another insert. If we were to use like a for loop here and do that, let's go up. If we were not to grab the next ID, and let's say we do one by one, this would be an X number of queries depending on the size of our CSV file and how many relationships we have. Now let's scroll down all the way. So what are UUIDs? UUIDs stand for Universally Unique Identifiers. It's a mechanism to generate unique identifiers, similar to your primary IDs, but they're strings. Each UUID is made up of 32 hexadecimal characters. They can be either 0 to 9, any of these characters, A to F, and they're separated by hyphens. For example, this is what a UUID looks like. All these letters are A to F and the numbers 0 to 9. You have a lot of different versions of UUID. Version 4 is the most common one, and this is what we will be using. But to give you guys a quick overview of all the other UUID versions. So you have version 1, that's based on time and unique MAC address. This is suitable for generating UUIDs within a network environment. Version 2 is not commonly used. It's similar to version 1, but it includes local identifiers. Version 3 uses MD5 hashing. It generates UUIDs based on namespace and an input name. Version 4 generates UUIDs randomly. It's the most commonly used for general purposes. And the last one, version 5, similar to version 3, but it uses SH1 hashing instead of MD5 for better security. There might be more versions. What we care about mostly is version 4. That's what we will be using. Alright, so if you're looking to start using UUIDs in your databases, when you create a new migration in here, you want to use the UUID here like this. So you add UUID, unique, primary. Let me actually go back to my code and show you here side by side. This would be the regular ID. This would be for your UUID. We add primary and we add unique. Let's go back here. And this is my other table, user's email. I have the user's ID here and see how I have it UUID. And it's a foreign, it references ID on users. This line shouldn't be any different between using integer IDs and UUIDs. The next step you're gonna need to do is you're gonna need to update your models. So see here, I have my model. I added the has UUIDs flag here. And you can see this is the namespace. This will enable UUIDs for your model. The next thing you need to do is cast it to a string. This will ensure you have the proper ID handling and types when you're fetching your IDs from the database. And that would be pretty much it. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you on the next tutorial.